Nancy,
Yes, sir.
did you get a copy of the bills?
I actually walked across the street and looked at them today.
Oh, good for you.
I had never done it before, so I decided it was a good time to do it. Yeah, I did. Thanks. They looked fine to me. I had a couple questions just because I never looked at them before, but to me they look fine. How about you?
Yes, I agree.
Good. Okay. Okay, great. Great. Yeah, I thought, well, I can go over there and actually probably physically take a look at them today without doing any harm. So that's what I did. So
Yeah.
it only took me, oh, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe to run through them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that was a short stack.
it was, I figured that was a short stack. Yeah.
And a short walk.
And a short walk. Yes, it was. It was a short walk. And the sun was shining. So that was good.
That's nice.
That was good. Yeah. It was a beautiful afternoon. It's a beautiful afternoon.
We need more of those.
Yes, we do. The sun especially.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Hi, Matt.
Hey Al, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Hi Nancy.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you or to everybody.
Yep.
It's going to be a good one.
I think so. Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
Somebody had something on.
Aliens.
Yeah. I found out why you can't see. Did some Zoom things over the holidays, and I asked people why I can only see like 5 people instead of seeing everybody with my gallery. And they said it was because when you do a screen share like Victor does to show us things, then it cuts down on the number of people that show at one time. So that just answered the question for me. Yeah, it answered the question for me why I couldn't make everybody show up at the same time.
Thanks, Nancy.
Sure.
Hello, Victor. Jim's on.
Hey, Jim, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hi, Jen.
I'm well, thank
Hi,
you.
Nancy. Hi, Al. How are you doing?
Great.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi there. My lights.
So, Nancy, that was a good thing you figured out about the gallery thing. I wondered about that myself.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure out because I was on a Zoom over the holidays and I had 9 or 10 people, and I mentioned
Right.
it actually to Luke, to our son, who uses it a lot. And he said,
Yeah.
well, Mom, if somebody's screen sharing, it just cuts down on the number of people. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
That explains it.
Yeah, it helps a little bit.
Get it, Wally.
I'm assuming John and John, they had their baby. Am I right, Jim?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
What did they have?
They had a little girl, and they named her Joan.
Oh, nice. Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's pretty exciting.
They're in 7th heaven, I guess. Yeah.
I am very busy and very tired, probably.
Very,
but
very much so.
that's the way it works. Yeah. Good for them. Good for them.
Thank you. I'd be interested sometime, Nancy, to hear how Luke's doing these days. I mean,
Oh, thanks. Yeah, he's well. Thank you very much.
is he?
He's well.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yep, he is. He is.
Is he skiing any?
Just a little bit. You know,
Enjoy.
he's pretty busy with the rest of his life right now. So
I'm sure.
yeah, all of them live too far away, actually. But there we are.
All right, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Nick, can you give us a roll call?
If you remember, you also have to state where your location is, what city you're located in. So just for the record.
Very good. Yes, Harbor Springs, Michigan.
Nancy Roundell,
Yes, Harbor Springs.
Al Dyka,
Yes, Harbor Springs.
John Leo,
Here, Harbor Springs.
John Cox.
Here, Harbor Springs.
Very good.
Good. Have we all had a chance to review the minutes from the December 21st meeting?
Thought they looked okay.
I thought they were fine.
I agree. I didn't see anything.
So
I
I'll
would
make a motion.
to approve them.
I'll second it.
John Leo made the motion, Nancy seconded.
Yeah. We have to do a roll call.
John Cox,
Yes.
John Leo,
Yes.
Al Dyka,
Yes,
Nancy Roundell,
Yes.
and Matt Boogera.
Yes. All right. And the bill committee, everything look okay this week?
Yep. I would make a motion that we accept the bills as posted. They looked fine to me.
I'll second that.
Excellent.
John Leo,
Yes.
Nancy Roundell,
Yes.
Al Dyka,
Yes,
Matt Boogera,
Yes.
and John Cox.
Yep.
Motion carried.
All right. And moving right along, let's try and get some citizens' comment. So do we have anyone on the phone tonight?
Mhm.
No.
No? Any YouTube comments?
We have a few people watching, but no comments so far.
Excellent. No one's chatting us up on the Zoom. So I
Not
guess-
yet.
Not yet. All right, I guess we can move right into the city manager section.
Okay, let's start with section 3A because we go alphabetically here, and we'll do land acquisition grant application update and timeline. So I'll hand it over to Denny in a minute here. You all probably read the memo there. Basically, what we wanted to do was present to council, show council all the steps that the city, the big steps that the city has to accomplish or go through in this process of applying for the grant by April 1st. So the deadline is April 1st, and there's a lot of key items that we have to hit, but there's necessarily no deadline for those items, but internally we want to be organized here. So we have to have a few public meetings at the council level to discuss a resolution for the grant as well as a site plan, talk about fundraising, do some environmental assessments, another appraisal. So there's a lot of things that we have to do from the council level as well as staff level. So we provided this timeline so we have an organizational structure, and so council knows, all the steps that we have to hit in 4 months. I mean, it's a relatively short time. And it's also just as a reminder that, this process could, I won't say fall apart, but if there's any of the contingencies aren't met at any part during this application process, we have contingencies where we can just essentially a condition where we can just back out of the agreement. For example, let's say we don't have the public support or can't find the money, or we find out that the site's not a good site or a viable site for whatever and environmental reasons. I'm not saying that's the case, but there's all these contingencies in the agreement that we have to meet. And so there's really more to it than just what you see on this application list, but this is what we have to hit in order for to apply for this grant. The second, after Denny goes through the timeline, the schedule of what we need to do, I'm also going to suggest that we form a fundraising committee just to get the ball rolling, at least so we kind of start planning about how we're going to target going after donors to meet that $1.25 million that we need to raise for a match for the grant. So that will just, obviously we're going to want to have, a conceptual plans and, a resolution passed by the council as required by the grant application process. so we can actually have something to present to the public for them to donate money for this. But we still need to get that ball rolling on a fundraising committee if we want to seriously start reaching out to donors, because we only have less than 4 months to get those commitments for that money, that matching money. Those commitments need to be highlighted or need to be submitted along with the grant application process. So basically the city has to show the state that we have the money that we're going to pay on our own, the 25% match, that we have this money for this project. So I'll pass it over to Denny. Denny, if you want to go through this, the timeline and some of the key items that we need to pay attention to.
Sure. I think it's a pretty aggressive timeline. Victor wanted to have everything done by the start of March, which then gives us some time to add any other information or supporting documentation that's needed. I think it's really going to be important. Today's really just kind of the kickoff. In the next couple council meetings, we're really going to need some feedback from the public of what their vision might be or hopes would be for that property. So that's it's pretty aggressive. I think it's kind of also fun knowing like we have this tract of land and what kind of wonderful things are we going to do with it. So we just wanted to spell this out to you. It's going to be a lot of work, nothing that we can't handle. We're all working on it together. I've been in contact with some of the agencies. I've been in contact with the DNR, which I heard back from today, in reference to actually the lakefront portion of that property. Like, I think it would be good for us to know, like, what are our options there? Well, it is considered a wetland, unless we wanted to contest that and have a study done to say that it's not. And that's okay. I'm just saying it being a wetland, it's not something we're most likely going to be developed. And I don't think that was really our plan anyways. I will say from talking with emails from our rep that it's not a slam dunk. Although we're going to rate really high when it comes to Great Lake frontage and the fact that we have adjacent city property right to the property, we're not going to rate extremely high in recreation because of the size of the tract and what the tract of the land, the size, and what we can do with it. It's going to be really important that we meet that matching funds and maybe even more. That's a consideration when being selected for the grant. So I think that worst case scenario that we should try and get more donations than 25%. And so those are just my starting thoughts on the process. Victor and I have set up weekly progress meetings every Tuesday to see if we've met some of the criteria that we've set up and where we need help. And it's an all-in, everybody in City Hall is in on this. We have some partners involved. So it's moving along quickly, and it's going to go by fast. Does anybody have any questions?
I think so.
Are you excited about the opportunity?
I am.
I am. Yeah, no, I read through the timeline. Looks good. It's very aggressive. It's going to be a lot of work for you guys, for all of us. So,
and hopefully at the next council meeting, we'll have some more of our residents involved in talks about what to do with it or what the potential is for the property.
right.
Yep, that's a good point, Denny. We just got a question from Karen Stroh about that, how we'll get public input. And so in this timeline, you see the January 18th meeting is going to be our first real meeting. I mean, public can comment at any time, but this one we're going to advertise as a public meeting. The public can come and comment on applying for the grant and whether or not we should, go for the property and what we might want to do with the property. Then there'll be another meeting, as you see, I believe in February, we talk about developing a conceptual plan. So we want to, Denny and I and the city, we're going to put together some proposals of what we could possibly do with that land and the waterfront, and then throw them out there to council to discuss in the public to see what, options they want, what they would like to see happen with that land. And then we'll come back, we'll get that plan finalized and come back to council with a final conceptual plan. Now, as I mentioned at a previous council meeting, we don't have to necessarily stick with this if we come up with a conceptual plan, that this has to be the plan we have to follow. But the DNR wants us to see that, we do have some plans for this, that it'll be of some public use. So that's the whole goal of doing this. So we don't need any kind of super detailed maintenance plan or conceptual or site plan, but we do need a conceptual plan that we want to submit that will be convincing enough to the DNR that, this is a viable, great idea for this parcel of land. As Denny noted, it's a smaller lot. So on their rankings, when they're going to score these grant projects that they're going to be receiving from across the state, they're going to be looking at, well, how can this land be used for recreation and what could be done there? And the more we can show that we're going to be doing something that benefits the public, the easier it's going to be for us. But Denny, you had also mentioned to me, I think a week or two ago, that they've changed sort of this year compared to previous years, the funding, how much of their funding is being allocated to this process versus the development part of the grant.
Well,
Can you explain that a
yeah,
little?
you're absolutely correct. This year, now development grants and acquisition grants are equal. It used to be that acquisition grants held a higher value and there was more money allocated to that, but now we're even. So that's also another challenge that we have, along with the size of the property. And, not to get too far ahead, because I think this will be drawn out when we have public meetings and people have ideas what to do. But I think it's pretty safe to say that the property doesn't really lend itself well for traditional recreation. For example, like we're not going to put a playground there or tennis courts or pickleball. I would hope that we're not going to do anything so it's not traditional. I think it really lends itself well to an outdoor educational interpretation center, which is something that we kind of lack in our community anyways. And I feel like that might be something that will give us some points and add some real potential. The wetland area in the front there, I mean, we may not use it for recreation, but it also falls really well with wildlife viewing. So that's some other points we can get. I think that will, all be drawn out when we talk about it. But let's just say, just to get some people excited or some ideas, let's say that we got that property and we turned it into an outdoor educational park, interpretation park. And let's say Tuesday mornings, at 10 o'clock, we had a class on the formation of the Great Lakes. Thursday evenings, how are Petoskey stones developed? How cool would that be to be able to provide that? Schools, some of our schools can do day trips there, go there and have an outdoor classroom. It'd be a cool place for us to have a council meeting at some time. So there's a lot of potential, and I'm just throwing out some ideas. I'm really excited to know what other people think about it or what their thoughts are. I mean, we could have a small trail around the perimeter, but it would be more of an interpretive one saying this is a red pine tree, a white pine tree and stuff like that. It's kind of nice that it has hedges because it kind of creates an outdoor classroom. We may want to remove the hedges that are facing the bay just to open up the view. So those are just some of my preliminary ideas. There also are some challenges. One is parking. I think if we develop that property, and this is actually in the application, what's access to the property? We would probably need to use the gravel parking lot by the deer park as a parking lot for people that are visiting the location. What about bathrooms? Are we going to be in a situation where we're short on bathrooms? So there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of obstacles that we have to work through.
Thank you, Denny. And we got one public comment again from Karen Strau, who just said it would be great to tie in to the educational programs provided by the Little Traverse Conservancy too.
Well, that is a great point, and I think we've already reached out to them, and they are partners with us in this requisite acquiring the land, and also will be, if we decide to go forward as an outdoor recreation area or learning center, they would be involved totally. We're right on board with that.
Great. It might be putting together a survey, some kind of survey that we could put out and get some more public input.
I think we can, yeah, we can do that, definitely. I mean, I think we have two options there, and Denny, you can chime in at any time, but I think one option is to put a survey together right now before we do the conceptual plan, or wait to have a few ideas that we flush out at council at the next meeting or so, and then put those ideas out to the public. It's either way, however, we do it, we can do it. It's good. It's great to get some more public feedback, but I think just as importantly, we're going to want to have people attend this meeting by Zoom or telephone or whatever, so we can actually have a discussion, so at a real-time discussion with council members, because it's such a short time frame that we have to operate here that, so we're going to be putting this out there to the public, of course, for advertisement, for them to come to this meeting for notice. But I think survey is a great idea, but I think we also really need to hone in on getting people to really contribute, their ideas in real time here. So, we can flush some of those out a little more in detail. But anyway, it's a good idea, Matt. I think Denny and I can talk more about how we should formulate a survey and when we should put that one out there, at what stage in this process.
All right.
Can I jump in on something? Regarding fundraising, Victor, I saw you had a recommendation about putting together a fundraising committee.
Yes.
And I wanted to let council know that Harbor Inc. is really interested in playing a big role in that process. That's something that we've done before for the Wheelway. And could even be a lead role if that's what you wanted us to do. So yeah, we'd be pretty fired up to do that. And I'm going to run it by the board next week if you give me your nod that you'd like us to consider doing that for the city.
Well, Bill, thank you. And the mayor, I was going to suggest when we do formulate some sort of fundraising committee that we'd have probably two council members on this fundraising committee, a couple staff, and then a couple members from the public. And I think if Bill and Harbor Inc. is willing to play a big role, we should definitely capitalize on that. This is, definitely beneficial to both, for the city and, Harbor Inc.'s mission, I guess. So Bill, I love that. But, I think when we form that committee, however we want to form that, how many people we want to have on there, I guess whoever is interested is fine. But my idea was a couple council members, Denny, maybe another staff member here, and then a couple people from the public. And it's really just, to start planning for, how we're going to raise the money, and then, to actually start reaching out to donors. So, yeah.
No,
I
I
appreciate that.
echo Victor's position. I think involving Bill and Harbor Inc. would be of great value to the project. He's got a success record that I think would really benefit.
I'd agree.
And we've got the structure for the nonprofit, so donations could be tax deductible for people. And okay, good. I will run it by the board next week, and we'll get a confirmation on that. But I'm sure they'll feel that that's a good fit for our mission, and we'd be pretty excited to work on that with you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep. And Mayor, I guess what we should do probably now is form that committee, the fundraising committee for this land acquisition, volunteer 2 council members to serve on it. Those who are going to really want to go out there and dress up in a hot dog suit asking for money. No, not that kind of fundraising.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any volunteers or?
I hate raising money, but I would be happy to sit on that committee. Actually, I would be happy to do that as one of the council. If you guys want me to do that, I can make that happen.
That would be
Thank you, Nancy.
fantastic.
Sure.
And I guess as being mayor, I should probably be spearheading this project. So I'll volunteer unless someone else wants to do it more than me.
I'll be helping as much as I can. But
There you go.
not from a-
Yeah, and I'll also help out, where we can. So
John's good at begging for money.
Yeah.
Fire department.
problem is time.
Well, that's great. So I would, so Denny, if you want to coordinate, I'll put you as the lead staff person for this. If you want to coordinate a committee, we have Bill Mulder so far, Matt and Nancy, and then yourself, and then, another staff member here. And then maybe if there's someone else in the public that wants to, participate, we can reach out. So Denny, are you comfortable with that?
Yes. I feel as though Andy might be a better candidate than myself because I'm working on the application, but that's your decision.
Yeah, we'll discuss that in-house.
Okay.
We'll reach out to, we have Karen Stroud also that says she's willing to, happy to volunteer as a non-council member.
That would be great.
That would be a wonderful, yes.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, the more people, the better.
Absolutely.
Your head.
I think you'll get a lot of volunteers for this project. I think it's going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, I agree, Al. Is there any other questions on, I know we didn't go into schedule in detail discussing it, but you see it up there. Is there any questions about the grant application process, the schedule, or the fundraising committee?
No.
All right. Hearing none, then Mayor, let me just check YouTube to make sure there's no other public comments. There wasn't. I can move on to the next section. All right. The next item is 3B, which is a Kiwanis Park donation update. I say this as an update, but this kind of came to us relatively quickly. So we had of course, in our capital improvements plan, we had, certain plans that were very conceptual and preliminary in nature about Kiwanis Park, the idea of potentially, in a few years from now, turning Kiwanis Park into this winter park that's a year-round park for residents. And we had an individual willing to donate $65,000 potentially to operate a tow rope or a magic carpet at Kiwanis Park. So Denny has been discussing with the potential donor and was trying to see, obviously this opportunity fits well into the preliminary vision that we have for recreating Kiwanis Park in a winter park. But obviously it's not something that we've had scheduled on for this year, for next year, as a tow rope wasn't on the schedule definitely for this year. And something like this, if it goes through, would have to be in place for next winter, so 21-22, the 2021-2022 winter season. So I'll let Denny take over, just give a little more background on the donor and what this is about and how it fits into some larger plans for Kiwanis Parks, including, the whole winter park concept, as well as staffing, maintenance, and operational costs and needs that might be associated with the tow rope, as well as other future endeavors there. So Denny, if you want to take it away, I do have the documents that you sent me earlier.
Sure.
So I can show those.
Okay, thanks, Victor. So we have this awesome donation opportunity from the Mary Claire Reynolds Joyce Foundation, who has donated previously to the city to install a magic carpet tow rope at Kiwanis Park. They actually offered to do this in the past, but the city wasn't in a position where they were ready to do it. And during conversations with them, when it was mentioned, they jumped right in. They were totally excited about the opportunity. And I think it would be a good fit. I think it would be a huge benefit for our community. It checks a lot of boxes. For the first box is it encourages family activities, which I think is great and we need to do more of. It also encourages winter recreation, something that we're lacking right now. And with winter being 7 months out of the year, it's something that we're hoping to do more of. The hill also has a lot of history. I mean, talking to people, Nick Whitaker, John, people I talk to in the community, they have a lot of fond memories of the hill and learning to ski there and spending their weekends there and after school. And I think that's a big thing for our community, to have that kind of feeling and that history. And it also is something that has the ability to be a huge benefit to our year-round residents. So it checks a lot of boxes. But there are some obstacles, as anything good has. One is safety. If even if nothing comes out of this donation request, I think the conversation about the safety at the hill is one that we should be having anyways. I've checked with the state, talked to them today about the requirements of us having, they consider a tow rope or a magic carpet a lift. So there's a lot of requirements to it. Basically, the application would be $200 first time. And then the yearly would be inspected yearly, which I think is great. It's $45. But in the application, we would want to have a safety plan, which I think is great. We should have a safety plan. And the safety plan there would include better signage that we could do better. There's a lot of things we're doing, but we can do better. Signage, maybe the hours of the park. Clearly defined ways going down the hill and up the hill so people aren't running into each other. Remove any obstacles. In the safety plan, we're not allowed to have ramps or big boulders or anything like that. That's all got to go away because that's dangerous. I think that supervision, I think by having somebody at the hill, just like we have lifeguards at the beach, will increase the safety. There's already lights there at the hill. But I would suggest an amplifier system. So how this would work is there would be a shack on the top of the hill where the device is, and that shack would have glass all the way around it, heated so the operator can have visibility of the whole hill and be able to tell people when they're not doing things that they should be doing or that. We'd want to block some of the obstacles. Now, in talking with, it's looking at the hill, where the old tow rope was is higher than the rest of the hill. And I think that really made sense when it was used for skiing, but not so much for sledding. I think we can roll that area out so it's smoother and doesn't have such an angle. And I think we would want to have some barriers along the wooded lines. Now they make at ski hills, they make snow fence that's collapsible. So you're not gonna like run into a hard post and hurt yourself. We'd want to do that. But in talking with Luke's today, he brought up a really good idea. It's like, why don't we put a natural berm there? We have the topsoil from our decomposing area where we have the waste, and we could put natural berms there and put seeds on them to put grass seed on so we look more natural and not be a snow fence we have to put in and out each year. I think there's some things that we could do to make the hill safer. And whether we decide to go along with this plan or not, I think we should look at that and do the best we can to make it safe. Another obstacle is staffing. So we wouldn't have a mechanism like that at the hill without having staffing at the hill. I mean, that's just, and that's a good thing. But do we have funding for that? And I think we do. But another aspect of this is now that you have staffing there, why not open up the warming lodge? Warming lodge isn't open now. We heat that building, we plow to it, but it's not open because we don't have staff there. We don't want to just open the building. And now if we had a program there, now we would open up the warming lodge and make it available for people to warm up. I mean, how cool would that be? We do have in our CIP, we did have a component to redo the parking lot up there. Anybody that's been up there to Kiwanis Park in the wintertime or every day in the summer, the parking is terrible. People park along the side around the Circle Drive there and they block it. We feel we can do better. We could probably get away with the Circle Drive and put parallel parking there, have one entrance in and out. In our CIP, we also have some money, not a lot of money, but some money to do upgrades to that building. The windows that are in that building are not weatherproof. I mean, we want to replace the windows, replace the paneling on the inside with just drywall and paint it, maybe put a fireplace. There's already a stack there. So now we've got some really cool components. We've got an apparatus to take people up the hill. We've got a warming lodge for them to warm up, and we got a parking area. The lodge and the parking will benefit people all times of the year, not just in the wintertime. So I think that it's something we should really look at, and I think it has a lot of potential. And that would be phase one to what is a bigger vision of creating a winter sports park up there. And that would include moving the skating, the winter skating from the skate park up to Kiwanis. How does that benefit us? Well, for one is, right now we're taking care of two places. We're plowing and heating two different buildings. Every year we have to move the skating ramps out of the skating area to create the ice rink and then move them back. And every time we move them, as hard as we try, there's some damage occurs. Well, it takes 10 days each time to do that. So we would be operating more efficiently. But the bigger vision of having a winter sports park is somewhere down the road. It would take a lot more planning and organizing. It would take a lot more public input. I think it's a great idea. It would create something awesome and be a destination where people would come. But that would be phase two. What we're talking about now is phase one, which would include a lift, upgrades to the existing building, which need it, and parking lot improvements. I also have another idea for the bathrooms. And that would be the biggest part of the renovation of that building. And if you haven't been in a while, I encourage you to check it out. What I'd like to do is have access to those bathrooms from the outside of the building. So when the lodge isn't open, and in the summertime when people are picnicking and hanging out there and using the Frisbee golf course, that they would have access to modern bathrooms. It'd be just like any of our other bathrooms in town. We open up in the morning, we clean them, and we shut them at night. How cool would that be? So I think that there's a lot of potential there. So I'm open to comments, suggestions.
I think it's a great plan.
It's a great plan. I balk at the operational expenses. It's easy to get money to build buildings and get donations for magic carpets. But the staffing is the problem that we had last time. The Kiwanis did it voluntarily for men. They were doing it when I moved here, and they did it for many years after. But then they started not enjoying that so much. They kind of abandoned it, and the city tried to take it over. And we didn't do a very good job at staffing it, and the population that was using it diminished, and the two ski areas offered free skiing on their bunny hills. So there were a lot of reasons to shut it down, and I don't see how I don't think they went away.
Well, I think that we actually have, I requested $10,000, which included staffing. I don't think we'd want to have, during the winter time, I don't think we'd want to have just one person there when the lift apparatus is going. I think there needs to be two people. One operating the lift, one gopher who goes around and checks the lodge and gives that person a break. I think I came up with using the hours Monday through Friday from 4 to 8 and weekends from 10 to 6 to staff. I came up with $10,000, which included their wages at $14 an hour for 12 weeks and maintenance to the apparatus used to bring them up, whether it's a magic carpet or tow rope. There's also, that is to go in addition to the existing budget that we have for the sledding hill. So, but, and also I would think that maybe to start off with, maybe we would just want to do weekends. Maybe we do Saturday and Sunday for the first winter to see if it's something that's manageable and something we can do. I think we could totally do that without adding any more money to the program.
I had quite a discussion with Jim Bartlett about this, and he really cautioned us about operating building a rope or a magic carpet. He said, you have no idea how much that costs to operate. And I don't, but he's a resource that we should tap and get a much better feel for the real cost of this thing before we move forward on. I think some planning could be done, but for the other features that you're discussing, but to start planning on a rope tow or a magic carpet, I think we need to do a lot more homework.
Danny, I wonder, I think a winter sports park's a great idea, but I do have some reservations about a lift, because I think that kind of puts us in a whole different ballpark. The liability, I don't know a lot about that, with the city's policy and stuff, but I can't imagine that it doesn't put us at a different place for some liability when we have a moving rope tow or magic carpet. I also think you would need someone at the bottom and the top. When you run something like that and you have a lot of beginner people using it, just to load a kid at the bottom is a full-time job. I'm just wondering if these folks who are willing to donate for a rope tow or a magic carpet might be willing for us to use that money for an ice skating rink. I mean, are they, and maybe that should be a phase one as opposed to a rope tow or a lift, because I could certainly see the ice skating rink up there. That's just a thought of it.
Sure, no, and those are both very good comments and comments that I've been wrestling with. I don't know if 2000, when I retired from the DNR, I went to work for the city of Petoskey Parks and Rec. Although I was the harbor master there, I didn't work at the winter sports park, but I did contact them even when we were even thinking about this, and I asked them what they did and why they got rid of their tow rope and what have you. They said it wasn't that their tow rope got to a point where it needed to be upgraded, and they weren't willing to do it. They said the operation was pretty simple. And I know that JB had some experience with that, but I went right to the state of Michigan, to the bureau that oversees that. They oversee lifts and carnivals. That's kind of a strange,
amusement rides and ski lifts. Yep.
So I've been in contact with them, and they gave me the requirements. Even on the state's website, they had a risk management plan, which was very helpful. Would we be, the risk is already there. So I think that after this discussion, there's some things we have to do at the park to make it less risky. The actual tow rope is not as expensive as the magic carpet, but I agree with you, Nancy, from my experience, if you're using a tow rope, because now you're hooking your slide onto the rope, you would need to have somebody on both sides. The magic carpet is more like a conveyor belt, where you basically can sit down on your sled or what have you, and it brings you up the hill. I don't think that we'd be able to run it with volunteers, because our operators would have to be trained. There'd have to be emergency procedures, and maybe this is more than we want to take on. I don't know. I don't think it's as hard. I think we can do it. I know we can do it. They'll do yearly inspections. Our equipment will be new, which is a good thing. And that's why Petoskey didn't want to invest in something new, because they said, we've got so much going on, they're not into it. This would be something huge for us. And, has some potential if you guys feel that it's worth going forward on it. I for sure can run the ice skating rink by them. I think sometimes when you get a donation and you have like a plan, that sometimes it can snowball and other people will jump on, and that this could be the beginning of something really awesome.
If I may, I really like the concept. I think the drawings make it look very attractive. All of the discussion that I've heard is about how we would operate and support. I haven't heard anything about what we believe attendance will be, usage will be. If we're going to go through all of this effort and create a destination, how are we estimating usage will be? How are we going to attract users, which is the ultimate reason to do it in the first place? How are we going to ease into that and not make an investment that we find out was, overbuilt, not being used, and basically, a bad investment?
That's a good question. I think the addition to a lift and a warming lodge would make us a destination. Here, just talking to people at the Hill, I think that's a slam dunk. The part I don't know that I don't think any of us can judge on it is snow. With global warming, that has a bigger opportunity to put a kibosh to this than anything else. I think that if you look at our city as a whole and our management, Parks and Rec, our budget, we pay our lifeguards, the wages for lifeguards are $34,000 for 3 months. And I think doing 1/4 that expense to have people at the winter park that will encourage outdoor recreation in the wintertime for 1/4 that is worth it money-wise. But the snow is, the ice skating rink is more iffy because of global warming than the snow, because the ice skating rink, like right now, we're not making ice because it's too warm. That's a really good point and something that I'm conscious of, and we all should be. But we will draw more people. My concern is maybe drawing too many people.
Well, drawing too many people at any stage would be a good thing to have to deal with.
It
I'm
would.
really a lot more concerned with the opposite. And if we're trying to build winter activities, we need to walk a cautious line so that we don't waste, whether it be a donation or money from the city, on something that turns out to have been a bad investment.
Denny, if I may jump in, do you know what the usership is like right now at the sledding hill?
I do not. And when I started, I didn't know there was no attendance figures at the skate park or at City Park Beach. I instituted, because I needed those figures for planning going forward and moving Parks and Recreation forward, but there was no figures. So I implemented a ship report where they had to say, they had procedures like, these are the safety things, these are the things you do, you clean the bathrooms, how many people are there at 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 7 o'clock at the beach. I did the same thing for the skate park. So now I have some figures. I don't have figures for the sledding hill, only my observations of going there and for people in the community to go there. And walking up the hill, I mean, it's a little bit of it's a struggle sometimes. Going down's fun, but coming up's a challenge.
Well, I would think that in order to present for approval any kind of an investment, you'd need some both actual numbers of current usage and projections on future usage to justify it.
I agree totally. I haven't had that opportunity yet to capture those numbers. The grant that I'm looking at is due January 8th. I can ask for some more time. I offered up several solutions, and the one that they came back from that they were most interested in was the magic carpet. And number 2 was a splash pad, which I thought would need a lot more public input and discussion before we went in that route. Not trying to push forward. I can say that we're not ready to make that jump right now, but I think we turned them down once. I think if we turn them down again, we may lose a valuable partner. When I'm not, I don't know. Our biggest, we would be betting on the staff time and supplies to operate the sledding hill. That would be our biggest loss or our biggest bet that we could lose. Not saying that we want to throw away $65,000 of donated money, but they're pretty fired up about this. And I think it's a great idea.
If I may interject here, so here's, I guess a suggestion would be, do we want to apply for the grant and see, whether, we can always, I guess, if we get it, say no. Do we want to do some more planning? Does council want us to do some more planning, apply for the grant, plan for, what operational costs, usership, and other important criteria are before we know whether we want to go forward with this or not. I mean, I don't think the idea was to come to this meeting to say, let's make a decision about going forward with this. I think the idea was to give council, like, here's what we have. Do you want us to continue further exploring it? Because if we do further explore it and we do get the grant, we either have to accept or reject that grant. And if we accept that grant, then we have to be ready to put something in place for next year. If we don't accept that grant, like Denny said, maybe or maybe not, we'll get it next year or not. That's kind of irrelevant at this point. But if we want to accept it, do we want to go forward with planning and trying to get some of this usership of how many people are using it? Will people use it? How do we attract people? How do we operate it? Get more detailed plans. So that's just my thought there.
Well, I think we should definitely look at getting this grant. I mean, regardless, that park is getting used, whether it's Frisbee or right now, there's people up there sledding. Like my dog goes to visit people over there. I don't know if it's 10, 20 or 50 people, but there's people there every day. And regardless, the warming hut needs to get upgraded. If we're going to do anything. So
I am totally on board with you. I like your idea. If the council could give me some direction on what more information you would need, and with your approval, I'd like to go ahead and submit for the donation, which would require me submitting an application and doing a face-to-face with the family. I'm also hoping that maybe if they see the bigger picture of the Winter Park, that maybe that might influence them, or to maybe see the project through. But I totally agree with you, John. I think that at least we have to upgrade that building, and we have to do something with the parking lot. And related to the building, John, I just have to mention this. There's a back room in Kiwanis, and I cleaned that up. It was a mess, and there's like 10 tote boxes of Christmas stuff, including a Santa Claus suit. There's buckets of Easter eggs and Easter decorations and Halloween stuff. And when I was talking to the family representative, they donated that stuff. So nobody's told me this. I'm thinking at some point the Kiwanis building was a community center. I mean, how cool is that?
When I was young, I mean, a lot of things happened up there,
Why not bring that back? Like, how cool would that be to be able to do that stuff and bring people together and have a community center? That would be awesome. And that would be something that I would really work hard towards. It's, hard things, it's easy to say, we can't do it. The hard thing is saying, like, we can do it, but it's going to be a lot of work. I'm just telling you, I'm willing to do the work.
I did not mean to imply in any way, shape, or form that we shouldn't pursue an opportunity. I'm just concerned about making commitments that we then need to follow up on, or going down a rabbit hole that we shouldn't go down. And you're even what you said about presenting to the family and getting them all jazzed up about the macro plan for a winter park. That's very early on in consideration stages. That's the way you set expectations that you then don't meet down the road. So just from personal experience, I'd be careful with that one.
Denny, do you have a camera that we can put up there, like a trail cam?
I do not.
I've got one.
Just a camera, exactly.
I've got a trail cam, brand new one here. I'll drop off.
Okay.
Maybe you can put it up there where the old controls were for the rope tow. Shine it back towards the warming hut building, and get an idea how many people are coming and going.
Great idea.
So John, I do you think I should maybe ask them for more time? You know what I mean? I agree with you, John. If we say we're going to do something, we need to follow through. Should I maybe ask for more time and let us chew it a little bit, get some figures before we submit the application?
I don't know. It depends on who the people are, what their expectations are, what they're willing to allow us to spend the money on. If that money can be used as a phase one and proof of concept to move forward towards a park, go for it.
No, that would be it. It would be phase one with no commitment to phase two. It would be a commitment to a magic carpet. And that's another thing. I've studied tow ropes and magic carpets. Tow ropes are less money, but more labor intense, and I think somewhat more dangerous, where the magic carpets are less expensive and a little, or more expensive, but yet more safer and easier to use.
You know,
You-
Denny,
Yes.
this, just a thought. I don't think that we're ready to commit to this very generous family that we will put in a magic carpet. I'm hesitant to say that. If they're willing to give us time to look at it a little more, yes, we want to do improvements at Kiwanis. We want to make it a place for kids to sled, ski. I was up there yesterday because I have never been to Kiwanis. I hate to say that, but our kids used it a couple of times. There was a little girl, there was a 12-year-old or so sledding. So I talked to her. Her complaint was hiking back the hill. They had built a jump, which they were going over and crashing. And I think there's great potential up there, but I don't think we should commit to this family that we will definitely put a magic carpet or tow rope in. I don't think council's ready to say, yes, for sure, we're going to do that. At least that's what I'm hearing. We're
Well,
willing to look at it, but
if we're gonna turn it into some kind of a park, something will need to be put in there to get back up from the bottom of the hill.
Mhm.
I mean, I was there when the tow rope was there years ago,
Mhm.
with no issues, skiing. I've installed the foundation for the magic carpet at Boyne Highlands.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know what it takes there.
Mhm.
The magic carpet is safer, a lot easier to use, especially for the younger kids.
Right. Right.
It will be a little more costly to install, but probably down the road, it's a better investment.
That's correct.
But
I don't
again,
disagree
it's
with you,
stuff
John.
it's stuff to review.
Yeah.
But again, I think step one is getting the lodge to where it's usable for the Frisbee golf, for other things, even just the people that want to go up there and use it for family purposes. So I don't know, Denny, my suggestion would be talk to the family,
Right.
Mhm.
kind of let them know where we're at with our
Yeah.
mixed
Yeah.
reviews.
Yep.
And if they'll give us, if they're okay with that and we want to go through with the process, great. If they would allow us to wait till we get a little more concrete information, so be it. But I think the idea to move forward with this is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
I need a, it's a big donation. I guess I need a little clear direction here. You want me to contact the family and say that we're not ready to make that, we would like to do some more research on it. Is it something that we'd still be interested in the next 3 months? Or do you say, should I say thank you for your interest, but no thank you?
Well, I think we just, I don't know, from gathering what I'm hearing here, I think we're all in agreement that the warming hut, some of the parking lot, those kind of things need to be done to make it more user friendly now.
Right.
I just wouldn't commit, as Nancy said, I wouldn't commit yet on what exactly we're going to do with the hill until we get, a little better information.
Well, I mean, you and Victor are in contact with them. Sound them out as to, the vision and how flexible you think their investment can be used.
Okay.
And then based on that, make a decision on how to move forward.
But I agree, we got a hell of a gift staring at us. It'd be foolish to turn it down.
Yeah.
It would be.
And I think, Denny, if they're absolutely set on it's got to be a rope tow or a magic carpet for whatever the reason is, then we need to ask for a little more time. If they're willing to be flexible with that money, as long as it's used for the park and potentially a winter park, if that is something they're really interested in, then I think it's fine to say, yes, we'll do something with it at Kiwanis for sure. But I wouldn't commit right now to either a rope tow or a magic carpet until we have time to really figure out if that's what needs to happen there.
Understood. Thank you for your
Does
time.
that work? Okay.
I think
Yeah,
that-
I would agree with Nancy. I mean, putting in a rope tow or the magic carpet, you're putting the cart before the horse. I mean, you need to take care of the lodge. We need to look at any other infrastructure projects we have to do up there. You know, because you put a magic carpet in and the rest of it's all run down, no one's going to bother going up there. So.
And that's when you waste the donation and maybe cause more ill feelings than if you just say thank you, but no, not right now.
Exactly. Yep. So talk to them.
All right.
You know what would really help is if we had a park millage going down, and we can do some pretty awesome things with that.
Well, but even if we had the park millage, I think these exact same questions would come up. Or they should.
I think it's a step in the right direction anyway.
Yeah, go for it.
I think we have council's direction on that. So, all right. Thank you, council. Denny, you and I will catch up later on this. All right, let's move on to item C, which is discuss and approve the ordinance 428 on short-term rentals. Before I do on, we have some, public comments from Valeria Hosea on YouTube about this magic carpet. She says destination park is a good idea, but don't forget, let's do something fun for local residents who are here all year round. They matter too, even more so. The magic carpet would be great fun for our kids living here in Harbor.
Great.
All right.
My
So
point.
let's move on to item C, which is the short-term rental ordinance. So council had us go back to this short-term rental ordinance, and Attorney Jim Raymer here made those edits, which were essentially taking out the occupancy limits that we had and the single-family designation, and making some other minor edits to the short-term rental ordinance. I provided with council just with some preliminary survey results about housing and short-term rentals and density issues that we've been asking for the master plan update. I put these in here just because I've heard a lot of council members and planning commission members talk about the need for year-round housing and the need for workforce and affordable housing, and the idea of having more or making it relatively easy for short-term rentals to operate really kind of counteracts that whole goal and mission of having, workforce housing and short-term, and year-round housing. So the more short-term rentals, it's very simple. The more short-term rentals we have, the less year-round housing we have, the higher the cost of homes for the homes that are available on the market are. So it kind of is a cycle that that we could really get caught into. And so I just wanted you guys to be aware that the Plan Commission is reviewing all of these elements right now. So, when the master plan gets updated in the springtime, it may be that we find out that we have goals to reduce or eliminate or limit the amount of short-term rentals. Right now, we don't have that information and that data. So I think it would be kind of early to make a decision on, changing up the short-term rental ordinance more than we've already done. But I wanted you guys to have that context, that we have a lot of residents who are favoring establishing limits on the number of houses being used for short-term rentals. Almost 2/3 of residents wanting to increase the number of year-round residents that live here. Respondents wanting to evaluate how we're using our neighborhoods, the density of the neighborhoods. So I think, there's a lot of discussion that's going to come up at the Planning Commission as we go through the survey results and as Planning Commission reforms some of the goals that they have for housing. And I think we need to keep that in the back of our minds as we go throughout this year with the short-term rentals, because I think the proposed ordinances, the proposed changes to the ordinance we have now are very minimal in nature. We're just some more stringent requirements on trash, recycling, and some other things there, but and parking, for example. But when it really comes to the crux of the matter is, do we really want a lot of short-term rentals or not that many short-term rentals here? This ordinance is not an answer to that question. The master plan update process will be an answer to that question. So right. I gave that information so you have that context for this discussion, but we also provided the red line version of the ordinance, and as well as the draft of the ordinance that we have there. So, and I think sorry, that's what I have attached. So. Any questions or comments or discussion about this as proposed?
I found it eye-opening to read those statistics. 2/3 of the community would prefer to have more housing density and year-round people living in the houses. And I was pleased to see that, and it's certainly how I feel about the city. So if adopting the revised ordinance that's a good idea, but I think we got to digest some of these statistics.
Take into account
Our zoning
was right there with the right thoughts and questions.
Whoever's watching TV, can we have you mute your Zoom? Thank you.
I have the knowledge and experience to make your next move your best move. Please give me a call today and we'll get started on your real estate dreams.
Who's watching TV?
Victor, you
Thank
should be able to mute remotely and take care of that.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. I didn't want to mute all council members because then I unmute you as you speak. I just figured it's easier for you guys to take responsibility for whoever's doing it.
I don't think it's one of the council members.
No.
I just don't see anyone else. Well, all right, it's gone. It's muted, so it's fine.
I found
think
those. Go
oh,
ahead,
go
John.
ahead.
Nope,
No,
go,
go
John. Go.
I think the changes to the ordinance are appropriate, as we discussed last time. I think they address the known issues with short-term rentals that we're trying to fix. I agree that there's a longer discussion to be had. And I think at the last meeting when we talked about this, we agreed, once we have more information and further discussion, we could decide if, and more likely how, to limit the number of short-term rentals, because it will end up contradicting, I think, the long-term goals that the Planning Commission and the survey are indicating. But I think this is the right thing to do now to address known issues.
And I agree. I agree with John. I think this is as much as we probably should do right now, rather than passing something that we're going to go back and undo once we get this. I have a couple of questions about the ordinance, and some of them are directed to John Cups, about fire suppressors. Can you tell me what that means? Let me see if I can find it, Victor.
I think it's on the screen right here.
Is it?
Fire suppressors
Yes.
and in section 3A.
Yeah.
Or 3, compliance with codes. Yep.
What is?
Basically be your fire extinguishers.
Oh, okay. It's not the built-in kind of system that would only be in brand new homes.
That, or in commercial
Okay.
usage, but that should probably say just fire extinguishers, which is all you need in residential.
Okay, that just
Yes.
threw me when I read that. I wasn't sure what that meant.
Yep.
I agree with you. And the other thing was about the parking, that there would be no parking in the road right away. Is that, I think that's the way it was worded.
Mhm.
So does that mean no parking on the street at all for people in a short-term rental?
That's
Is that-
correct.
That's correct. Okay.
That kind of contradicts what we do with the locals right now, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm thinking in specific of a business that I very much support, but that parks probably 15 to 20 cars every single day in the same neighborhood where we're getting complaints about short-term rentals. And I'm struggling a little with saying that's okay to do that, but it's not okay for a renter to put one car in a parking spot on the road.
Well, we got residents up and down 3rd Street that park on
Yeah.
the road, not in their driveway.
Yeah, so I'm struggling with that a little bit. I think we're being really hard on a person who ends up having 2 cars at a short-term rental and they don't want to park each other in, and they park legally on the street. So I just need some, because we don't do that with anyone else, and we certainly don't do that with businesses that are basically in a residential area that parks a ton of cars every day on the street. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know if that's, really enforceable unless you've got
It's
you
not.
know, a mob of people. You know, if the neighbors complain, oh, they've got 6 cars parked in the street, that's an issue, but
Well, it's not if it's not illegal though. I mean, if they're parked in a parking spot on the street, I don't really feel like we should be able to tell them they can't do that.
yeah.
What, I think we had this discussion last time, and what I remember was we all agreed it wasn't enforceable.
Yeah.
But if enforcement is required, if Kyle or one of his officers is called in and there's a problem because there are 6 cars parked in there from a short-term rental, it gives them something to enforce.
But why should that be a problem if they're legally parked on the street? I mean, how can we tell someone they can't park their car in a legal parking spot just because of where they're staying? I don't understand the thinking behind that.
Well, the only thing would be is like this time of year, we have parking regulations because of snow plowing.
Well, they'd have to follow those, just like all of us do. I totally agree with that.
How about
it's-
if we ask, yeah, maybe Chief Knight is online, maybe we could ask him what he thinks.
We can go to Chief. I say the original intent for doing this, if we remember, is that we were trying to put some limitations and made it more, I won't say difficult, but made it basically making sure that the people who are doing their short-term rentals were not creating issues for the neighborhood. So when we initially brought these suggestions to council, which included trash, the 2 biggest complaints that we got this year were parking and trash. Those were the 2 biggest things. So people would say, you know, there's a short-term rental, there's so many people there, they're parking their cars everywhere and it's cluttering the neighborhood or whatever. That is the reason why we brought this to council, those couple of issues. The neighborhood complaints from the year-round residents complaining essentially about the disruption to their neighborhoods because of this. So we put these limitations in the ordinance to meet those kind of counterbalance those complaints. Now, if council wants to take away those counterbalances that we put in, then maybe it's not worth putting an ordinance in. I mean, if just to add trash and recycling, I mean, but as John said, these are really kind of catch-all phrases. If we need to go enforce something, we have something with some teeth that we can go enforce. That's why that's how it'll help us. And it's a question of why do we treat some people differently than others? I mean, it's because it's a use. The use is what's being treated differently. So we're making a suggestion here through the ordinance, if it gets passed, that using it as a rental is more of a commercial use than it is a single family use. So we're going to attach some sort of limitation to how you use your property because it's not being used as a single family house anymore. It's now being used in this kind of hotel, motel, bread and breakfast kind of use, which is a commercial use. So when you do commercial uses, you can put whatever limitations you want on parking, on trash, on how you use that building. So that's where you delineate the difference between parking for someone who just has a single year-round single family home versus parking for someone who's using their property as a motel or a bed and breakfast. That's the reasoning. Whether it's right or wrong or you agree with it, that's a different story, but that's the reasoning why that's in here.
Am I not correct that rooming houses are also allowed in R1 and R2 or R1C and R2? And are those regulations in place for a rooming house that they can't park on the street?
Rooming houses need I believe, a special land use designation.
Okay. And I don't know, but then does that parking restriction hold for them also? I always struggle with doing something that doesn't appear to be fair to me. You know, that's where I'm coming from on it. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know maybe we do have the right to do it, but I struggle with that. So, you know, we have a single family house and they have 4 cars. The people own 4 cars and they park 3 of them on the street all the time. And that's okay, but if someone has a short-term rental and they park 1 extra car in the street, that's not okay. So I struggle with those kinds of non-enforceable things. And it seems unfair to me to do that, but.
Victor, is there a way to, with the parking, just word this so that we encourage the people to park within the driveway limits? Rather than kind of saying you can't be in the street right away or this, that, or the other thing. Just kind of encourage it to be parked on premises.
Well, I mean, we could do that, but then that comes the same philosophy that we don't encourage people who have year-round houses to just park in their driveway. We don't have language encouraging year-round residents to do that. So why would we treat then, if we're following Nancy's philosophy on this one, why would we treat these short-term rentals different by encouraging them to park on the driveway when we don't encourage others to park on the driveway? So, I mean, if we're
I
going
was
to be
just trying to find
consistent
that
about
happy medium.
well, I mean, I think
Good luck.
I get we're trying
Yeah.
to find a compromise, but we also need to stay consistent in why we're putting these rules out there, and we have to be either serious being consistent with why we're putting these rules out there instead of just trying to find a compromise, because that could lead to if we don't know the reasoning for why we're doing that, it could lead to an ordinance that we're going to have to come back in a month or 2 months and redo again. So I think we really need to be sure about why we want these limitations in there. And the history that I gave you was it's because we've had complaints from neighbors on these two issues, parking and trash were the biggest complaints we got. And now if you want to attack parking and trash through different ordinances, we may do that as well. If you don't feel that's an issue, then maybe we don't need to go through with this ordinance and just and wait until we have results of the master plan process.
Victor, do you think that the complaints about parking are really because the parking is an issue, or that just the folks that are complaining really don't want that short-term rental there?
I think it's a mix of both. I think there's people who, by nature, the use of short-term rentals causes a lot of more unpredictable parking, a lot of more unpredictable situations, right? You don't know who you have coming there on a day-to-day basis. Neighbors, you don't know the neighbors anymore, so you have
Right.
So I think there's a combination. There's issues that are associated with trash and parking and other things, but there's also an issue just of the character of the neighborhood, of being a community, right? So you want to know your neighbors, so there's two elements, I think, to it.
And I totally agree with you. And I think the second one is the larger issue, unless it's an extreme example like that one we had not too long ago with the trash not being picked up. I totally get that. But I think what's driving a lot of this is not so, it's just that the people that have the short-term rentals are upsetting the neighborhood to the neighbors who don't want them there. And I think I don't have a magic answer how to solve it. I would prefer to see us encourage what we want to see there rather than trying to regulate what we don't want to see there. That's a big order. I know that's a big order, but I feel like we're always making rules to try and appease people that don't like what someone in their neighborhood is doing. And maybe we could take a better look at how can we encourage to get what we want? How can we encourage year-round people? And I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. This just rubs me a little bit the wrong way when there are other situations in one of these same neighborhoods where there are 15 cars parked on the street, legally parked every day, all day. And nobody complains about that. But when there's a short-term rental next door and they park 2 cars on the street, then it's a problem. So that's a hard thing for me to do.
Let's see if we can get Chief Knight's opinion on some of he had his hand up earlier for some questions about the parking.
Yeah, just real quick, the parking I'll bring up Summit Street, just off of State Street. There might be a short-term rental in there. There's if you go up there during the day right now, there's probably 7 or 8 cars up there. Some of them are construction workers. It would be hard for our guys to go door to door to door to see who's going to claim what car. That's going to be the difficult thing. But we're also, when you look at short-term rentals, downtown has a bunch of short-term rentals above a lot of the businesses. And if you're not going to allow street parking, I could see, I'm just hypothetically, some business owner sees a car out front and they want that car because they feel it's a short-term rental above their business to move or adjacent or across, then we're going to be going and knocking on all those condos doors or those short-term rentals. It's not, I understand the neighborhood part, but if I'm not wrong in this, I think there's a lot of short-term rentals downtown as well.
Mm-hmm. And they have nowhere to park except on the street.
So if we don't allow them to park on the street, then we're allowing them, we're making them park in the parking lot. And I don't know where they should park, and I'm not saying one way or the other. It's going to be very difficult for us to enforce we need to look at the whole city, because I'm concerned as well downtown. I mean, even this last weekend, we had a lot of people renting places downtown. I ran into a family from Indianapolis renting above the bank. I ran into a lot of people, and it's so we've got to watch that area as well.
Well, didn't you say the planning commission will be going through some of this as well?
Well, the planning commission will be reviewing the master plan. So the discussion of housing and short-term rentals is going to be part of that discussion. So eventually in the spring, when we have hopefully a new master plan, we'll have more guidance on the goals for short-term rentals and housing and density. But this is an issue that was brought to us back in the fall that council had directed us then to try to make some changes to the ordinance to deal with some of these issues regarding the parking and trash. So that's, I guess I said that history a few times here now, so I don't need to repeat it.
Right. I guess for, I don't know, conversation's sake, or so we can move this thing along. I think the ordinance is good. I'm just wondering, can we, for right now, take out this parking limitation, approve everything else that you have here, and then once the master plan is revisited, some different things, maybe we have a little more information. If we feel it, we can, as Chief Knight stated, maybe we can kind of review the whole parking, amongst the whole entire city, and then revisit that. And if we have to add it later, we can. But at least right now, we've got a starting point with what you already have here.
However council decides, I can proceed. I think we're going to be back here again in a few months anyway, regardless. I mean, by the
I think
summertime,
so too.
we're going to be back at this conversation. So I mean, the options are to proceed with an amendment as is, edit it, or table it, or not go forward. I mean, there's a bunch of different options. I guess it's how does council want to proceed now?
Well, I'd make the motion that we adopt this with I would like to remove the parking limitations and adopt as you have it.
And also changing the word suppression to extinguishers.
I think suppression is fine. Just knowing that it's an extinguisher.
Yeah.
It's just another word. Extinguisher would probably be more handy for the average person to understand, I guess. So yeah, I guess if you wanted to make that note as well, Jim, that would be fine.
Whatever council would like, but that was discussed. So just clarifying.
I would put extinguishers just because for the public reading it, that I think is going to be clearer to them what you mean, what's actually required.
I agree with that.
Sounds good. Okay.
I'll second your motion, John.
All right, I will take a roll call. John Leo,
Yes.
Matt Bulgara,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
Al Dyka,
Yes.
and John Cox.
Yes.
Motion carried to adopt ordinance 428 as corrected and amended.
All right,
Great.
thank you, council. Thank you, Jim, if you can work on that, getting it out to the press.
We'll send it out for publication tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thanks, Victor. I know that's a pain in the butt.
I know. Thanks, Victor. Yeah.
It's fine. It's what we do. Let's see. It's the manager's report is next. So I'll just really quickly go over a whole lot. Obviously, these past 2 weeks have been kind of slow. We are still waiting for the governor of the health department to make any new rulings about when we can, meet in person again. So we'll just wait. Hopefully by the end of next week, we'll know more about that. On this one, I did a basic recap of visitors, a yearly recap of our website and social media data. As you can see, the blue line 2020, on an average, we've almost, we more than doubled, in some instances, tripled our users to our website, visitors to our website. So I think our website is becoming more used. Part of that is, because we've laid out our information better, we have more information on there, but we still have a lot of improvements to do there. But I think that's part of it. The second part of it is people are realizing that that we do have a website and that it can be used. So I think, so there's some good news there. So social media, some stats right there. basically, we had no boards or commission meetings. I did have a preliminary meeting with Solar Winds, the solar project that the solar contractor that we contracted with to start the process. And the city's charter committee, we reviewed some new proposed language for the potential updates to our charter. I know this was before Nancy and Al, before you were on board, but we've been reviewing edits to our charter, some basic edits that are no longer in compliance with state law. And so basically, Jim Raymer and the charter committee, we went over that, discussed some suggestions, and then Jim Raymer is going to take those, I believe, again to the assistant attorney general to discuss those changes. And then when we know more from them, we'll take it back to council for a decision on, when we should go forward with taking this to the public, because there will need to be a vote on each of these amendments or changes to the charter. So that's where we're at. Again, it was a pretty slow 2 weeks with the holidays, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Victor.
Yes, sir.
I haven't done anything about boards and commissions this week because of the holidays, but I'll be working on that. Anyone have any new or old business they'd like to discuss this evening?
I do not.
Nope.
John?
Not, thank you.
All right. I say last year we put in place some exceptions to the drinking on public property and stuff like that over the summer because of the COVID. I think we should probably look at that, doing that again this summer, because I don't think this COVID thing's going to go away in the next 3 months, like some people keep promising us. But maybe look at some more options for dining in the public spaces and making the town more user-friendly for outdoor activities or outdoor use.
So
I would
Mayor,
agree with that.
you're talking about making these temporary changes that we made last year, trying to make some of those more permanent?
I don't know about permanent, but bringing them back again for next summer, or the summer coming up. And I think it worked out well. It was popular with a lot of people I know. I took advantage of it. So I don't know if we have to do the whole planning commission thing again, or if we can just.
I think, Jim, what we did last year was, since it was a temporary ordinance, we can bring that, the specific issues back back to council for it. We can take it to planning commission again, if you feel it's necessary, but I think if the COVID's still around for the spring and the summer, I think the same logic applies for why we need that, but I'll leave that up to council. We have the same language we'd essentially probably present to council, right, Jim?
I think it's quite easy. Yeah, we just take it and either reaffirm those provisions for the forthcoming season, and I think we'd be done. But I'd want to look at the administrative ordinance that we adopted, but it more than likely, since a lot of it dealt with use of public space, I'm not sure it's going to have to go back to the planning commission, but it never hurts to do that. So Victor and I will look at that over the next week or so and discuss what we need to do to move it forward.
Yeah, I would say just get their opinion on it, and then we can act on it. But I agree with the mayor. I think it was a positive step. And yeah, I think the issue with this COVID thing is gonna linger on for a while. So
yeah, I agree.
So good idea.
Looking, yes.
Yeah. I say I just last year I think we were kind of behind the 8 ball on a lot of this stuff because we started so late. This way we can have some time to think about it and possibly make some changes to make it better for the people coming up for the summer. So
yep, agreed.
All right, well, we can talk about it more at another meeting, possibly have it as an agenda item or whatever.
We'll come back in July. No, I'm just joking. That was a joke.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's not very good for the man with the plan.
That's good. Yeah,
All right.
we'll get something.
All right, well, if there's no other new or old business, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
Very good. Everybody have a good night.
Take care, all.
Thank you.
Bye.